The Final Destination series has always been top tier in the world of thrillers. A chillingly beautiful aesthetic of fate where the most bizarre and mind-bending exits steal the show. Unlike other films that rely on jump scares or gore, these stories let the characters sense what's coming, but no matter how hard they try, there's only one outcome: fate always finds a way. Across 6 Final Destination films, no one's ever seen the Reaper, but you feel their shadow in every scene. Today, let's dive into the 6th film, Bloodline Curse, and its twisted elegance. The story kicks off with Paul and his girlfriend Iris attending the grand opening of Skyview, a 149-meter-high architectural wonder made for VIPs, and the occasional troublemaker fishing coins from the wishing fountain. To mark the moment, the couple snaps a photo together, but the elevator ride is packed, and the heavy doors nearly fail to close. A server casually mentions that the building opened 5 months ahead of schedule, a detail that'll come back to haunt us. Iris eyes the shaking elevator doors and instinctively takes a nervous breath. Meanwhile, the same kid is bouncing wildly around the cabin. The little incident went unnoticed. Everyone's too busy admiring the fine dining and breathtaking view upstairs, but not everyone is destined to enjoy that view for long.
What? I don't know.
Still, Iris doesn't mind. With the person she loves by her side, life feels just right. She pricks her finger on a thorny rose, just a tiny scratch. Nothing worth worrying about. Paul then took Iris to the very top of Skyview, the high-rise restaurant. Just as he's about to kneel down, a sudden gust of wind blows off a woman's hat. Nearby, that same kid tries to toss a coin off the edge, only to be stopped by security. After all, even a single coin from that height could be dangerous, but the second the guard walks away, the kid lets it fly anyway. Just then, a strange gust of wind blew a coin into the building's ventilation shaft. After bouncing around, it got stuck between the spinning fan blades. Meanwhile, downstairs, a lavish ballroom party was in full swing. As the bartender popped open a bottle of champagne, the cork shot upward and hit a chandelier. The falling crystals cracked the thick glass floor below. Guests were singing and dancing right on top of that glass, their heavy footsteps causing the rivets in the platform supports to start popping loose. Then, like a bullet, the trapped coin shot out of the vent, piercing a gas pipe. Gas began leaking silently through the ventilation system. Iris started to feel a creeping sense of dread. Moments later, the glass beneath them shattered, sending everyone standing on it plummeting down.
Shout, shout, shout.
The scene turned to chaos, bodies falling like rain. Paul managed to grab onto a shard of broken glass, left dangling above the void, but the glass sliced into his palm, blood dripping below. Iris tried to reach out and save him, only to watch the glass snap, and Paul vanish into the darkness below. The survivors ran for the exits in a frenzy. One of them knocked a flaming pan from a chef's hand, and the fire caught on a woman's dress. Screaming, she ran straight toward the open vent, spewing gas. The gas was instantly ignited. Just before the explosion, a woman hid her child inside a cabinet, giving up her own chance to escape as the flames consumed the room. The explosion triggered a massive blaze that swallowed nearly the entire platform. A server shouted for everyone to evacuate using the stairs.
Out of my way! Children first!
The crowd rushed toward them, but disaster struck again. Part of the staircase collapsed, and people in the middle fell through the gap. Only one little boy managed to cling on and avoid the fall. The remaining survivors dashed toward the elevator, their last hope of escape. But the elevator couldn't hold everyone. Iris was pushed out at the last second. Overloaded, the elevator cable snapped, and it plummeted instantly. Those standing at the elevator doors were caught in the snap and torn apart in an instant. Above, survivors searched for another way out. That's when Iris noticed something strange. Everything around them was rolling in one direction. The platform had lost structural balance. One half was beginning to tilt. People began sliding toward the edge. Luckily, a large glass wall stopped them just in time. Just when it seemed like the worst was over, the woman looked up. A grand piano and chandelier were swaying dangerously above them, and the rogue coin, as if guided by fate, landed perfectly on top of the piano. A tiny shift in weight became the deadliest threat of all. The piano broke through the glass, bringing the entire platform down. Everyone fell with it. When the piano hit the ground, it landed right on top of the mischievous kid. The coin rolled quietly into the pool. Above, The remaining half of the platform gave way, crashing down and wiping out anyone who might have survived below. Iris stood frozen, stunned by the devastation that had unfolded in just 5 minutes. Then a faint cry. The child had survived. Hidden in that cabinet, he was miraculously unharmed. Without hesitation, Iris scooped him up. By sheer luck, her fingers caught the edge of a steel beam. What saved them wasn't strength, it was a ring, the one Paul had given her. But her fingers couldn't hold forever. The weight was too much. They fell from high above, there was nothing left to hold onto. They landed right on the metal spikes jutting from the ground. All of that was just a dream that belonged to a college girl named Stefani. Iris, the woman in the disaster, was her grandmother. Lately, Stefani had been haunted by the same terrifying dream, vivid, strange, and all too real. Determined to get answers, she decided to visit her grandmother, but only her uncle knew where Iris was. Ever since Stefani's grandfather passed, Iris had spiraled. She locked her kids inside the house, warning them, "If you go out, you'll die in an accident." Her condition worsened, and eventually, she was sent to a care facility. When the grandchildren were born, she even mailed them threatening letters filled with disturbing photos of mangled bodies. Stefani's uncle warned her firmly, "Never try to contact Iris. It's not safe." But her aunt had a softer heart. She suggested Stefani start with that old letter. Digging through a storage box, Stefani found it complete with Iris's address and a faded photo of her grandparents. She followed the address to Iris's current home, a strange, bunker-like compound. Even talking to someone inside required using the intercom by the gate. Her grandmother's voice came through, "Put all your metal objects in the box by the door." Only then did the gate open. Inside, sharpened wooden stakes lined the yard. Barbed wire hung everywhere. Old pots and pans clanged like makeshift alarm bells. The entire place felt like a fortress built for survival. As Stefani stepped inside and shut the door, an old fire extinguisher hanging on the wall shook loose and crashed to the ground. Iris clearly didn't trust her visitor, but she still asked, "How's your mother? Is she doing okay?" Stefani explained her reason for coming. She'd been having recurring dreams about a deadly accident at the Skyview platform. She needed to know what really happened. For Stefani, the dream was terrifying. For Iris, it was a memory. That was death, claiming lives. She had seen the entire chain of events before it happened. The visions came to her and everything unfolded exactly as she foresaw. She remembered snatching the coin from the boy's hand, putting out the fire in the chef's pan, yelling for everyone to evacuate the platform. That day, she saved lives. The Skyview deck was shut down for good, but that wasn't the end. Over the next 20 years, one by one, those who had escaped fate began dying in freak, unexpected accidents. Her husband, Paul, died in the 10th year. No one could outrun fate forever. Iris had been hiding here ever since. She could see the future, but that didn't protect her. Now, she was dying of terminal cancer. Seeing death coming isn't a gift, she told Stefani. It's a curse, a terrible one. The fact that Stefani kept having those dreams, it meant the curse was passing to her. Then something strange happened. Sunlight reflecting off a glass nearly burned through the rope holding a hanging flower pot. Iris looked up calmly. "He's already here," she said. Death's getting impatient. She had learned to live with it. For 20 years, Iris had studied every way death might strike: traps, accidents, patterns. It was the only reason she'd survived this long. Now that Stefani knew the truth behind her nightmares, she planned to head back to school, but Iris stopped her. Death has set its sights on our family. If Stefani truly had the gift to foresee death, then she had a responsibility to protect the rest of them. But Stefani didn't buy it. To her, they were just nightmares. She knew, the moment she stepped outside, death would strike. Still, she walked forward deliberately. One last stand. "Take the notebook," she insisted. "Everything you need to protect this family is in there." Then Iris took a step back, ready to prove she wasn't crazy. A sinister gust of wind swept through the yard. The weather vane on the roof broke loose and crashed into the fire extinguisher valve. The pressure blast launched the broken metal spike straight through Iris's skull. She died on the spot, right in front of Stefani. Stefani told the family what happened, but no one believed her. They dismissed it as a tragic accident, nothing more. Days later, while resting at home, a breeze shook the wind chimes. It brought back the sound from that day, the day Iris died. Curious, Stefani opened the notebook. Inside the first page was the very same coin from the Skyview accident. Drawings filled the margins, dozens of possible ways people could die. What Stefani didn't know was this: at that exact moment, her uncle's family was hosting a backyard party, and the scene matched the sketches in Iris's notebook perfectly.
I don't think you got it.
When a glass cup slipped and shattered, Stefani's heart skipped. Was death real after all? Driving fast, she called her uncle. No answer. Back at the party, a kid was bouncing on a trampoline. Its springs were failing. Below, a sharp rake lay waiting, but her mother, Darlene, noticed the danger and moved the rake away just in time. Crisis averted? Not quite. The real threat wasn't the rake, it was the air pump nearby. The inflated hose expanded too far and knocked over a set of tools leaning against the wall. When Stefani arrived, everyone was still laughing and having fun. Nothing had happened. Maybe the curse wasn't real after all. Then the trampoline tore open. Someone turned and knocked over a glass of water. The shards landed sharp side up in the grass. As her uncle walked by, he stepped on a piece, and that's when it happened. The rake fell, triggering the lawnmower. The blades roared to life, and in one horrific instant, the machine claimed her uncle's life. After her uncle's funeral, Stefani dove back into the notebook. There, she found a curious note. Someone named JB had once discovered a survivor, but who was JB? Digging deeper, Stefani compiled a full list of survivors from the Skyview platform incident. To her shock, their deaths had followed the exact order predicted in Iris's notes, one by one, over the course of more than 20 years, until her grandmother's death. The curse hadn't ended, it had passed down. And now, it was the family's turn. Her father and aunt were outsiders, not part of the sequence, but by Iris's list. The order went like this: Uncle first, then Eric, Julia, Bobby, followed by her mom Darlene, Stefani herself, and finally her little brother Charlie. Everyone thought Stefani was crazy for believing in death. No one believed that death was real. One evening, Eric finished up at his tattoo shop after the last customer had left. It was warm inside, so he turned on a fan, took a break, and tattooed his father's initials on his arm as a tribute. Music thumped in the background. The bass shook a toy off the table, and just like that, the chain reaction began. The noise startled Eric. He stood up fast. His chair bumped the counter, knocking over a bottle of disinfectant. As he cleaned up broken glass, the spilled liquid spread across the floor. At that moment, a rusted iron chain dislodged from the ceiling and caught on Eric's nose ring. He froze. The chain was looped around the spinning fan above, and it was pulling tighter by the second. Panicking, Eric climbed onto a chair, trying to give himself enough slack to unhook the chain, but time was running out. He tried to climb onto a taller cabinet, but accidentally knocked over a desk lamp. The disinfectant ignited instantly. Flames erupted across the floor. The glass counter shattered beneath his feet, nearly yanking out his nose ring. He shifted to the chair's backrest, the only solid ground he had left. Then, luck or fate gave him a break. He freed the chain from his nose, but in doing so, he lost his balance. Eric fell. His freshly tattooed arm landed on a burning hot heart-shaped ornament, branding his skin. The remaining disinfectant on the counter caught fire. The entire shop went up in flames. By the time Stefani arrived, the fire had already been put out. To her shock, Eric was alive. Just a minor burn on his arm. He was supposed to be dead. If the curse were real, how did he survive? Maybe Iris was wrong. Then, out of nowhere, a truck nearly hit Eric as he stepped into the street. Stefani warned him to be more careful. Even the smallest thing could be deadly around here. According to Iris's notebook, even something as harmless as a soccer ball could trigger a death. Eric laughed it off. They walked near his sister Julia's house. She came out, curious, and gently asked if his burn was healing okay. Stefani didn't answer. Her eyes were locked on the garbage truck nearby. "Stay away from the truck," she warned. But Eric couldn't resist tempting fate. He stepped in closer, pushing the limits of death's patience. And then it happened, not to him, but to Julia. The soccer ball hit her square in the back. She stumbled, lost her balance, fell into the garbage bin, and the mechanical arm tossed her into the truck. This wasn't just any truck. It had an automatic compactor that crushed trash into bricks. The three of them sprinted after it, yelling for the driver to stop. Inside the truck, the driver had earbuds glued to his phone. He heard nothing. Stefani climbed onto the back of the truck, risking her life. Inside, the compactor had already begun its cycle. Eric and the others ran ahead to wave it down. The truck slammed its brakes, but the sudden stop jolted Julia, who had just started to climb out. The compactor closed. After her death, the family gathered again, and this time, they believed. Death was real, the curse was real, but one question remained: why was Eric still alive? That's when his aunt revealed the truth. "He's not your uncle's son," she said quietly. "He's mine, from someone else. He wasn't part of the bloodline. That's why death had skipped him." According to the notebook, Bobby was next, but there was still hope. The note said someone named JB had once found a survivor. Stefani remembered that name. Iris had mentioned him in a letter to her mom. He was a hospital worker. The four were just about to head to the hospital when Eric stopped them. "As an older brother, it's my job to protect him," he said. They weren't related by blood, but years of brotherhood had built a bond that ran deep. Knowing Bobby had a peanut allergy, Eric dug out a jar of peanut butter from the car just to be safe. Then he paused, thought it over, and decided to go along himself. It felt better to watch over Bobby in person. They were cautious the whole way, even nervous walking through a revolving door. Luckily, they found JB without trouble. Turns out, he was William, the little boy Stefani saw rescued by her grandma in her dream. Iris had searched for him too. William had actually helped build the garden in her grandmother's yard. William shared what he and Iris had discovered about cheating death. There were only two ways: one, kill someone and steal their lifespan; two, be killed. Only true death could break the cycle for good. There was once a survivor named Coleman, who flatlined but was revived by a doctor. It worked, he broke free from death's grip, but it was dangerous, a direct challenge to death itself. And death doesn't take kindly to being mocked. "My dearest friend Iris is gone," William said, "and I've said all I needed to. It's time I faced my end too. Life is precious, we should savor every second. You never know when it'll be your last."
Good luck.
They looked around, only to find Eric and Bobby gone. Eric wanted to save his brother. Sure, the hospital had newborns every day, but taking the life of an innocent baby just to extend Bobby's? That was a line they couldn't cross. That left only one option: trigger Bobby's peanut allergy, let his heart stop, then fight to bring him back. Trouble was, the vending machine jammed. Eric pounded on it in frustration. No use. So he shook the whole thing by hand. Crude, but it worked out. Came the peanuts.
Now what?
Next, the two slipped into the MRI room. Eric stepped out to grab supplies, and as he shut the door behind him, it accidentally knocked a notebook off the table and triggered the MRI machine. Eric returned with a wheelchair just in case. The emergency room was right across the hall. If something went wrong, they'd act fast. Then, he snatched Bobby's EpiPen. Bobby had to die for real just for a moment before they could cheat death. Eric would be right there, ready to revive him. Bobby hesitated. Then, with a deep breath, he ate the peanut cookie. Panic set in. He reached for the EpiPen, but Eric held it back. "You have to cross the line," he said. "There's no other way." Just then, they realized the MRI was active. The machine's magnetic field pulled hard, snatching at Eric's nose ring and earrings. In a split second, metal objects flew toward the scanner. Eric's face twisted in pain as the piercing force tore at his flesh. The magnet pulled harder, yanking in everything metallic. The wheelchair slammed into the MRI machine, trapping Eric. Before he could break free, a steel rod from the chair impaled him. He died right there, gutted by the very plan he'd put in motion. The magnetic field kept growing stronger. Outside the room, metal objects began flying toward the door. Bobby crawled toward Eric's body, barely managing to grab the EpiPen. Thankfully, just in time, he pulled himself back from the edge of death. By now, the magnetic field had reached its critical limit. A nurse opened the door, only to nearly kill Bobby with the onslaught of flying metal. Death doesn't miss. No one escapes the Reaper. The only safe place left was the house where Stefani's grandmother once lived. She spent decades there untouched until the day she stepped outside, and death claimed her. Stefani's family decided to seek refuge in the one place left, her grandmother's old house. Just then, the cursed coin that started it all slipped from someone's hand and was picked up by an old woman. as their car pulled out of the hospital gate. A speeding truck nearly slammed into them. One more second, and the whole family would have been wiped out. As they arrived, the porch lights flicked on by themselves. Death was already waiting. A sinister gust swept through the yard. The wind chimes began to rattle, a sure sign the Reaper was close. In a panic, Stefani floored the gas, rammed through the gate, and skidded to a stop right in front of the house. The sudden stop sent her bag flying, its contents smashed her seatbelt buckle. "Get inside!" Stefani yelled to her mom and little brother. "If we don't, we're all gonna die out here." A burst of sparks from a hanging power line danced along the roof, landing in the gutter, igniting dry leaves. As her mother opened the door, a glowing ember floated into the house. "Remember that flower pot from earlier? The one cracked by the sun?" Now it gave way, crashing down and snapping the gas line. The explosion was instant and violent. The blast hurled the car into a nearby pool. Water gushed into the cabin, rising fast. Stefani was drowning. Meanwhile, Charlie was pinned under debris. A power pole teetered dangerously above him, ready to fall. Their injured mother dragged herself over, lifting the boards off Charlie with her last strength. "Go save your sister," she cried just before the pole came crashing down and killed her. Charlie dove into the car. He grabbed a knife to cut Stefani free, but she thrashed so hard he dropped it into the water. He fished it out, but in the scramble, sliced his own finger on the steering wheel. Stefani's body went still, her heart had stopped. Charlie didn't hesitate. He fought to revive her, and just in time. She came back. She had technically died, and that meant she'd broken free from death's design. After that, everything seemed quiet. It was Charlie's wedding day. As Stefani pinned a boutonniere to her brother's lapel, she accidentally pricked her finger. A strange unease crept over her. Elsewhere in the neighborhood, an elderly woman was about to buy cookies when something dropped, the very same coin she'd picked up not long ago. The coin bounced, tumbled, and landed perfectly between the switch points of a train track, jamming the mechanism. Back at the wedding, the bride's father gave a heartfelt toast. He praised Charlie as a hero. If it weren't for him, Stefani would have drowned that day. Actually, Stefani wasn't medically dead. She was unconscious, but her heart never stopped. By that logic, Stefani hadn't truly escaped death's plan.
Sweetie, you look like $1,000,000.
At that exact moment, a freight train carrying timber derailed, veering off the tracks. It barreled straight toward the siblings. They ran fast, and just as Stefani collapsed to the ground, the train screeched to a halt. But it wasn't over.
Oh my God.